Welcome guys. Today I am bringing you a beautiful katana from Romance of Men, which from this point on is going to be called Ram swords. This sword is straight from the oceans of Japan. So one of my favorite things about the production of any sword is when there is sort of a theme attached to the sword, and it kind of just tells a story, historical significance, or something from the past, or something that is emanating real historic theme in Japanese culture. Yes, these swords are coming from Japanese culture, and when they kind of embrace that, when they're producing these replica katana out of China or wherever they're producing them, when they kind of embrace that type of symbolism of the time in feudal Japan, it just adds to the sword when you have a really nice theme attached to it. So there was a lot of thought that was put into this particular ebi katana, and there's a reason why it's called ebi katana. Basically, ebi katana, they call it also the lobster katana. In Japanese terms, a shrimp or lobster in traditional Japanese culture, the ebi is called engimano. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. And that symbolizes a lucky object for many good things. Now, because the shrimp and lobsters with their long whiskers and bent posture resemble an old man, that symbolizes longevity, a symbol of auspiciousness. Shrimp or lobsters will turn red when boiled and with protruding eyes, and this symbolizes auspiciousness. Red is the fortune color in Japan, as well as many Asian countries. Shrimp or lobsters are celebrated for their strong jumping ability, symbolizing strong fortune. Lobsters' hard, spiky shells remind one of samurai armor, making them a favorite dish among Sengoku period warlords. The crustaceans have an external skeleton that allows them to molt and grow, and the ability to rejuvenate. This quality is seen as a metaphor for human flexibility and resilience. So there's a lot that goes into how they're reading into the lobster and the shrimp in Japanese culture. And it's pretty damn interesting that Romance of Men, decided to go with this type of theme. And they did a great job on it in terms of how they basically put it together, you know, telling that story. So it's just a little something extra you want to look at. When it has some significance and some symbolism of historical Japanese culture, I think it's kind of cool. So let's go with the various pieces of the sword and just let you know basically what I feel, how they kind of executed the fit and finish on this sword before we even get into all the cutting and how it feels in the hand and all that. So if we go with the tsuka itself, now I'm trying to figure out really what their attempted shape of the tsuka is, because there's a couple different shapes of the tsuka. You have the hayachi, which is kind of a curved pattern where it kind of curves a little bit here around the palm area where basically your fingers go. And then you have the Riko shape, which is pretty much like an hourglass type of shape where it kind of really sinks into the middle. Then you have the Morizori, which is more of like a tachi type of curved look to the tsuka. The imogata, which is pretty much the standard tsuka on most swords, that's what I think they're going towards, is the imogata, but it's kind of like a little bit kind of a curvature type of thing. So I don't know if they were kind of going with a hayachi type of look, but I would say this is kind of standard like an imogata type of tsuka. Now, according to them, this was done with hishigami paper, so it's a really tight wrap. Now, I can tell you straight out, especially for the price of even their $150, $155 spring sword, it was very, very tight ito out of the box, and I like to see swords that are coming into a budget range of about $150 to around $350 are really giving you hishigami paper and giving you some really rock solid tight diamonds on the tsuka for a good price point. So this is pretty impressive. I can barely move it about a millimeter, if even that much. They're really rock solid. The hishigami paper really makes a big difference. Panel samegawa, I haven't taken it apart, but it looks like that's not really bulging. Here it's bulging up a little bit here, which it could have been straightened out a little bit. It's a little disformed at the ends, but for the most part, I will discount that for the fact that they did such a great job with evening up the diamonds and giving you such a great tight ito out of the box. And the price of the sword retail on their website at this point of this airing of this video is around $350. So at $350, you would expect it, but you wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't. But expecting it and accepting it and appreciating the fact that they're giving you hishigami and giving you really tight ito and very, very even diamonds is always a great plus. Now, if we go with the Koshirae and the knot is pretty good. It's pretty flat. And it's, if you look at it from the profile, it kind of evens up to the diamonds, which is good. It doesn't protrude out too much. Very tight in terms of the knot itself. The Koshirae is very, very tight. The transitions are pretty good. The Ito overlaps on one side, and the Koshirae basically overlaps on one side, but it's not anything that's really like sharp edges that are really gonna, good dig into the hand. So it's executed pretty well. Could have been executed a little bit better in terms of the cleanliness, but if you want to be perfectionist, but this is a very, very good job, a good execution. Now, if you look at the Koshirae itself, and you look at this particular lobster on the Koshirae, I like the details that they're putting into the swords of late. I like the fact that there is competition out there, and they're trying to basically giving you some good quality molds. Now, obviously, most of these finishing pieces are all molds. They're not handmade or anything like that. You have to spend in the tens of thousands to get everything completely handmade. So you're getting pretty much molds, but the molds that they're giving you are pretty much high quality type of molds that are giving you the feel and the details of something that is handmade. And these are no exception. I like the theme of this as is, but I love the fact that the detail on the Koshirae, the lobster, you can make out the details, the scales, the tentacles, and all that stuff. It's got a little like a patina almost type of look. I love that tanned brass type of look. I just love the look of it. The manuki itself is a really nice detailed lobster, and you can really make out that it's a lobster right away. Most of the times the manukis are pretty much cloudy and muddy and you can't make them out, but they did a nice job with this manuki, knowing right out of the box exactly what it is. If you look at the fuchi, guys, the fuchi lines up pretty well. Again, it doesn't line up perfectly with the Ito, but it overlaps a little bit, but not enough, maybe on one side, but not enough where it's kind of really catching in the skin or the flubber of your hands as you're using it. It's executed pretty well. It could have been executed a little bit straighter and lined up a little straighter. It does bunch up a little bit here on top as opposed to the bottom, so it aesthetically doesn't line up completely here by the fuchi, but I think they did that honestly just to line it up so it fills in the gap and you don't have too much of a gap on the fuchi, and I think that's why they did it. And again, great detail on the fuchi. As always, you have the lobster on one side, on the other side you have like the tentacles or basically ocean seaweed or something like that. Really beautiful theme. It really tells a story on every piece that you're looking on the sword. I'm really a big fan of the finishing pieces, the fuchi, the Koshirae, the Tsuba on the sword. And again, guys, if you look at the Tsuba, beautiful, beautiful job on the Tsuba. It's pretty much all around. It has lobsters with the tentacles. You can see the details, the really deep, nice details of this mold. It is a really good quality mold, and it's equivalent on each side. You have exactly the same type of pieces. Solid piece. I think it's probably a solid brass, but if you really look at the details, you see the lines, you see the details. It's not muddy. It looks great. Could have looked better, of course, as always, if it was handmade, but this is pretty much almost just as good as being handmade. This is a really, really good quality freaking mold. And I would argue with anybody who says differently. That's my opinion. I think they did a great job with the molds on this sword. They really did. Tells the story, tells the theme, executes really well on basically giving you that theme on all the pieces of the sword. Now, if you look at the saya, guys, there's two types of saya. There's a blue saya, which is a little bit more, it takes a little longer to make because they wanted to give me that blue saya with all the ocean embellishments and stuff like that on it, which is really beautiful if you look at their website. But this is just as good. This is kind of like a fired red type of thing, and this kind of symbolizes a lobster when it's cooked. It has this type of black and red type of look. But what impresses me the most, other than the paint job, which is excellent, is that smooth finish. It's got like a powdered type of finish on the paint job, so it's not a fingerprint magnet. It's got a really nice powdered type of feel finish, very smooth in the hands. You have the Koshirae, you have, I believe, bullhorn basically also on the Koiguchi also has bullhorn, which I'll show it to you, which is very good. I'm very happy that they included bullhorn because not a lot of sword companies do, but they did. So kudos to ROM for doing that. I'm not sure if it's bullhorn on the Korigata. I think it might be wood. I could be wrong. You guys could correct me if you want in the site, in the comments. But I really a big fan. Very happy with how the saya looks, the smoothness, the powdered type of finish of the saya. I think it looks really great, and it adds to the whole overall look of the sword. Looks absolutely beautiful. in terms of the color scheme, the copper with the red and the black. And I understand basically how they kind of designed the saya to give it like that lobster after it's cooked. They didn't stop anywhere. It's kind of giving you the same theme. What I didn't mention before, as far as the suka, you see the mukugi pegs are also painted in to blend in with that beautiful, you know, the rayskin, the samegawa rayskin. It has some nice nodules there, some even larger nodules going in there. So it's a really good quality rayskin, along with the background of that nice lobster manuki. I really like how they did the handle. Couple imperfections, but for the most part, tight, very serviceable, very usable. It's going to stay secure in your hand. It's not going to feel like you're fighting to kind of keep it in your hand. I've had swung it. I have done some cutting with it, and it felt very comfortable, and it hasn't loosened at all with whatever cutting I did so far. So they did a nice job in the execution of the tsukamaki on the sword. So all the finishing pieces, finish is very good. It's very good. It's above standard. They did a really, really nice job in the fit and finish. What really strikes you on this sword is basically the blade, which is something that really surprised me on this Ram sword, is to have such a really nice, aesthetically beautifully polished blade in a T10 standard. So yes, this is basically a T10 blade, which is really good, and I am a big fan of T10 type of blades. 1095 T10 are pretty much tried and true. The beauty of this particular sword is that their own grass Hamon that they put on here, and they call this a aesthetic polishing. You can see it has 3 different types of polishing job with that really nice cloudy type of Hamon in the center. I am a big fan, and really took me by surprise in how beautiful the aesthetic polishing is on this sword. Now, the way they're selling off this sword is the fact that they want it to be an art piece. They want it to be something that you can show off and hang on your wall, and be able to have something in terms of an artistic element in the sword, but also to be able to be used. If you wanted a sword like this and you really love the beauty of this blade, which I really love the beauty of this blade, really took me by surprise. T10 blade, really nice polishing job, very prominent type of grass style Hamon. This is kind of a shinogi sakuri, because you have the yakote line, you have the boshi, really nice termination of the Hamon into the point. They did a nice job pretty much executing everything on this blade. It's straight, and the fact of the matter is also it's a nice polish, but if you really look at it, there's no grinding lines. The grinding lines are very minimal. They did a really beautiful job polishing this blade to give you very few, if any, grinding lines at all. So kudos to them for giving you, they're doing such a great job in their blades. Now I'm basically seeing that Ram is also giving you aesthetically very pleasing type of blades in terms of the fit and finish, and also giving you that blade that really looks well and really stands out. The habaki is above standard. I put some embellishments, some different types of textures all the way around the habaki. So they did something different, something that to break out of the norm. When they give you a habaki that breaks out of the norm a little bit, it's always a welcome addition, because so many habakis are pretty much bargain bin, you know, all the same type of brass things on most swords. And they did the extra step in giving you I'm not sure exactly what that is. It's kind of an ocean symbol or some kind of a symbol. Maybe there's some significance in Japanese culture, I'm not sure, but there is kind of a symbol on each side of the habaki. It's fitted pretty well. You can get a fingernail in there, but you know, again, it's hard to kind of fit, you know, brass in the right way, but it's fitted pretty well to the point where it doesn't wiggle, doesn't rattle. No really gaps that really concern you too much, but there is somewhat of a gap in terms of getting a fingernail in there. But still, I think it's executed pretty well. Shiny looking brass seppas on each side with some lines around the seppas, which is pretty cool. So they did a nice job in terms of giving you a habaki that kind of fits the theme and matches up with the rest of the sword really well. Overall, it's a very well executed sword all around, and I'm really happy with basically their choices in how they decided to kind of put this thing together with the theme and everything, giving you a nice polish, aesthetic polishing on the blade, giving you really nice finishing pieces, really beautiful molds, and giving you the theme and the quality of the sword, and giving you the look of that really artistic element of it. One last thing I wanted to mention, guys, is also the fact that they're giving you actual bullhorn on the Koiguchi. And again, this is an argument I have with so many sword manufacturers, why they don't just include that bullhorn as a safety issue. Basically, if you're doing quick draw cuts, to have that extra bullhorn as a protection on your hands when you're doing quick draw cuts where it won't cut through the saya. Bullhorn is definitely something that should be a necessity, I think, on all swords. But the fact that they're giving you bullhorn in the $350 price range, or any price range, I think it should just be included. Big plus that they're giving you a bullhorn, and that's something that definitely should be highlighted and considered. It's also really a clean, pretty clean execution on the Koiguchi. Could have been a little bit better, but it fits the sword really well. Again, there's no rattle. Everything fits really good. In terms of if you're doing no-toe, if you're basically using the sword in and out, it fits really good. Again, no rattle, little thumb push, and really you engage with the blade, with the weapon extremely easily. And if you're basically looking to do no-toe and you're looking to kind of unsheath the sword, it definitely does it extremely well. Little thumb push, and it doesn't come out. Very, very good fit and finish. That's something that impressed me right out of the box when I did an open boxing on this. The fact that it fits really well, there's no rattle, and it just basically, you can engage with the weapon extremely well. And when you're basically looking to sheath it or unsheath it, it does a really good job with that as well. But how does it cut? How does it handle? That's what I think you really want to know. Now, with the handling and the cutting performance of the sword, just want you to understand I am not coming to you as a practicing practitioner. Blade being about 28 inches long and 11 inches on the tsuka or the handle is absolutely perfect for me. It's a perfect balance for me that I pretty much look for. The weight of the sword being at 2.6 pounds, it's not a very heavy girl, but it's also not very light. But the good thing about this sword is it's very well balanced. Even though I don't think this sword would be a great trick cutting type of sword, light and nimble, I still think that the way they balanced the sword, it was very easy to keep control of the point and have the blade cut where more or less I wanted it to cut. Have it change angles, stop and go as I pleased. It felt very good in the hand. It felt very good doing no-toe, drawing the sword, and replacing the sword. It was just a good handling sword. The best handling sword in the world? No. But it definitely gives you a very good response in terms of cutting, moving it, and feeling in the hand. It just felt overall really good. And because of the extra weight, it also lent to be more of a heavier cutter, where when I moved it to like heavier materials, I felt like it was able to cut through the materials pretty well. And being that it's also a convex edge grind, which is excellent, I didn't find any damage because the convex edge is a great edge to cut medium to heavier targets. Would I recommend this sword for someone in a dojo or someone practicing with their swords as a practitioner? I think it definitely will work, and they will definitely find a lot of joy in using it, but I think they'll probably get tired after the 1,000 or so draws and movements of the sword might actually give you a little fatigue. But if you're just using it basically to do some brief practicing and cutting, I think you should get a lot of joy using this sword as a practitioner. Nice. Pretty good control. Oof. Trying to stay really tight on this. Nice. Still going. Still going. Here I hit right into the stand. Those are some pretty good cuts, except when I hit into the stand. I don't seem to see any chips or any bends or anything like that. It wasn't solid oak or anything, it's plywood, but it should be, it still seems pretty fine. But those are, it's just, you can manage your sword pretty well. Trick cuts are a little hard because again, it's a little hefty, but you can manage your sword pretty well. I was able to really change directions and be able to execute some really good cuts other than that last cut into the cutting stand, but it looks pretty good. It cut pretty well, and I just can't emphasize enough how good and sharp this is out of the box compared to the other swords that they sent me in the past. This looks great. Now this particular cutting session with this tatami mat in particular is going to be pretty interesting. I'm trying something new. Maybe I'm a little stupid, maybe I'm a little crazy, but I actually tried to roll up this tatami mat with some dried up pieces of bamboo along all the inner core of the tatami mat, and I used a new method of kind of soaking these, which you'll see I'll leave a link to the other video I put in as far as a new method of soaking these things, which should be pretty interesting. But this is this dried bamboo is going to make this a pretty hard cut, I think, but it's been soaking for a while. The bamboo has been soaking for a while, so maybe a little soft, but let's see how this sword goes through it. I have a feeling it will go through it because it is a little bit more of a heftier cutter, even though they remain to say that it's a light to medium cutter or something like that. But I think it should be able to go through this as long as I execute my cuts pretty well. Ooh, that's tough. It's hard, but it'll get through it. Definitely a hard target with this bamboo in there. Adds a little different dimension in terms of trying to get through it, but it did pretty well. I mean, I'm gonna inspect it, but it doesn't seem like there's any damage or any bends or anything like that. I mean, obviously you have to put a little bit more into the cut, but it actually went through it pretty damn well. Nice clean cuts, bamboo inner core. The soaked tatami mat did pretty good. I would say it's a pretty good tatami cutter. If you did this without the bamboo, I think this would sail right through tatami mats with no issue. So I would say this is, this looks like a really good tatami cut. All right, so now at this point, I got through some bottles, very sharp out of the box, great control. Even though it's a little bit on the heftier side, you're able to basically have balance and control of the tip and be able to direct it where you want. And with your experience and with your know-how, you can basically manage the sword really well. But I wanted to get at this point a little bit more aggressive with the blade. I feel like that it can kind of get into like heavier cutting, like maybe cutting into thick binds, can do a number on the edge, or maybe it takes a little bit more of a heftier sword or a good cutting profile to be able to get through the vines really well. Take it the next step up and give it more of aggressive cutting to see how it holds up. Fairly easy. Not bad. Not bad at all. So far, looks to be in pretty good shape. Not bad. Vines are definitely very, very fun to cut, especially when you got a robust sword that's able to cut them. Very cool. Short, thick one here. Nice. Well, it breaks through it pretty well. A little bit of force, breaks through it really well. Nice. Very nice. Beautiful. Look at that clean cut, guys. Mad cool. I gotta tell you guys, this is one hell of a day in Staten Island, New York right now. We're in the middle of a heat wave across the country from what they're saying this year. It's supposed to be the hottest year on record for like a century. I don't know what's going on, but it's pretty damn beautiful today. Sun is shining, humidity's kind of low, and we're on the precipice of the 4th of July weekend or 4th of July week and into a weekend coming up. So I want to wish you guys also very happy 4th of July. So guys, to sum up this whole thing, the Ebby Katana from Romance of Men. Really, really happy with the fit and finish of it. Most important, the blade. I was very surprised at the blade, very surprised at the polishing job, the cosmetic polish that they put on the blade. Is they really job well done. Very happy with it. Very happy with the price at $350. You know, you got a great cutting sword, great feeling sword, not light and nimble, but hard enough, basically strong enough to basically cut through tatami mats. Now that tatami mat is a flimsy tatami mat, but I actually added that bamboo core on purpose just to make it a little bit more durable. It got through it with a little force, but it got through it pretty well. No damage. Got through the water bottle cuts. Shows the initial sharpness out of the box, which is something they concentrated on. With this rendition of these swords, they tried to make it a little bit more sharp out of the box, which is definitely very appreciated. It felt very good in the hand. Not coming to you as a practitioner, but it did feel really good in the hand in terms of the swing, in terms of how balanced it was. It was a little bit more of a heftier sword, not too heavy, but enough where it was balanced enough where you felt you had control of the tip. At the end of the day, in terms of a cutting sword, T10 blade, very tried and true T10 blade. I didn't find any damage on the edge. I didn't find any sets or bends or anything like that, luckily. And it did a good job. It cut through all the materials that I used pretty well. And finally, with the harder materials cutting through the wood vines, it also cut through those vines pretty well, which means the edge retention stayed up. Because at that point, when I was cutting vines, I did do a lot of cutting with it. So the edge retention stayed up to the point where it was able to get some really nice clean cuts into those vines. And it's still pretty good. The edge is still pretty good. And it still can basically live to cut another day. So at the end of the day, guys, do I think it's worth it? I think it's definitely a great quality sword. I think at $350, if you want something aesthetically pleasing, something that you can hang on the mantle in terms of the saya and the blade and the finishing pieces, if you want something that has historical presence in terms of the theme with the Ebby Katana, the lobster katana type of thing, I think it's definitely something that would fit the bill. And if you want that sword, all of the above, and you also want a good cutting blade, I think this definitely fits the bill as well. So at $350, I think they priced it pretty well, and they're giving you a lot of bang for the buck in terms of Romance of Men with this sword and all of their products. So I think they're doing a pretty good job. Once again, guys, this Ebby Katana from Romance of Men, recommendation at $350. I think they did a great job, and I think it's a good buy. So my next sword and knife review, guys, happy 4th of July, and have a good one to you and yours and your family. Be safe, be happy, be kind to one another. Peace out, everyone. Ciao.